the next session, therefore, is very appropriate because we're going to hear from someone who's working in hospitality, but who's come from a diverse background, you know, and I thought it'd be interesting to hear his views on how he feels hospitality needs to do to attract tech and non-traditional talent. So over to you, Matt.
Thanks, Hulen. Hope you can hear me okay. I'm just going to share a few slides for my session. Great. Hold on one second. Okay, hope this is coming up okay and clearly. Thanks again for having me on, and hello everybody, good evening if you were in Asia Pacific, and good morning, I suppose, if you were in United States or North America. As Hulen mentioned, I just wanted to share my perspective of my transitions through my career of starting with Expedia and getting the opportunity to move to Asia Pacific, and then having the chance to move to Facebook and experience what a tech company is sort of all about, and then my motivations for moving into hospitality, and I think our learning process along the way. How can hospitality companies truly start to make inroads in terms of a more diverse talent base and recruit from other industries into hospitality? So the first I'm going to start with is values and culture. And I think this is something that I feel tech companies do extremely well. They have a well thought out narrative. Everything about the tech companies is always bigger and broader than their actual product, right? Facebook was all about connecting the world. In reality, their job is to sell advertising based off of your personal data, right? But they build a much larger story. On day one, you go into a room with everybody else who's on day one as well. And the first thing they do is they have Chris Cox, who is an extremely good presenter, the chief product officer, and he comes in and lays out the mission of Facebook, the mission from the start, what they're focused on, and how everybody in the room is playing a much larger role than your actual role at the company. And they start to really sort of push on the culture and being part of a larger story than what is just the product and the services that the company pushes. And I think that there's so much opportunity within travel and hospitality for us to tell a much more clear, a much more purpose-driven story than what we sometimes do. The hospitality seeps into the communities. We are there when there's disasters. We are helping when there's disasters. In some cases, like Koh Samui, for example, when COVID hit and communities sort of shut down, the hotel shut down, we created a farm at that hotel, and we gave food back to the community. There's so many stories of just really great impact, social impact from hospitality. And I think that that's something that young people are looking for. And we can actually deliver it in an authentic manner. I think that we also need to be thinking about, so again, back to the message, are we being very clear in terms of what our values are as a company? And is that bleeding through to our culture? And are all of our employees coming in every day and sort of swimming in the right direction? Another area where I think that there's a lot more opportunity is in representation. And I'll give you a real life example of my experience when I came into Hilton. So I moved from Facebook, which was a fairly diverse company, into Hilton in Singapore. And all of the VPs had offices in our old office. And everybody sort of has a flag that's part of their name tag that's on their door. And every single flag was British, American, or Australian. And every office, bar one, was occupied by a middle-aged white man. And I think we also need to look at our industry and say, have we made strides, and have we started to introduce a whole lot more diversity into our senior leadership positions and executive positions. And I will say that in the 4 years that I've been at Hilton, I think that Hilton has made strides, in particular in Asia Pacific. I think we have a lot more diverse leadership base at this point. But in order to attract people in, they have to feel represented in terms of where they can go within the company, and the opportunities that may be at their fingertips if they commit themselves to a career within that company or within the industry. Another thing that I thought was really interesting around representation is this idea of a shadow board. So there was an HBR, so a Harvard Business Review article in 2019 that talked about Gucci, their experience with not being able to sort of tap into younger consumers and digitization. And so what they did was they actually created a shadow board within Gucci of younger team members that helped them to cross the chasm into digital platforms and influencers and into more of the zeitgeist that was happening within sort of the digital space. And I thought that was a really interesting route to go, and a way of creating a solution that starts to take advantage of, even if you do have a historically older generation of leadership, you can find ways that young people can have impact on the direction of the company. I think the biggest thing that we have is playing to our strengths. And I think Chris touched on it, Louise touched on it with her quote earlier, is that I think people now are starting to look at more than just money. They're looking more than just compensation. We get to live and breathe something that's exciting to people. Typically people are taking 3 to 4 trips a year. We get to live and breathe travel every single day. So I think the big question is, are we playing to our strengths? Have we revisited our travel benefit programs for our employees? Are they strong enough? Are there strong enough incentives to draw people into getting a chance to really experience more travel in their days and months and years with these companies? Also, have we leaned in hard enough to remote work? Right. I think that remote work in hospitality could be a really intriguing way for us to be able to open the door to people who want to be nomads, who want to seek out that lifestyle where you have the combination of a flexible work environment, remote work, and also the benefits of working at a hospitality company where you get a chance to stay in new destinations and in hotels and products for a lot cheaper than what you would if you were a normal consumer. So I think that there are tools that we have to utilize. I just think that we may need to look inside and say, are there ways that we can bring these forward into our recruiting efforts and in conversations to try and attract talent and also retain talent at the same time. Big, hairy goals. So this is something from my Expedia days, and this is something that Dara, the now CEO of Uber, who used to be CEO of Expedia, used to define. So we had big, hairy goals. I think one of the things with tech talent and people who are at tech companies or seek tech companies out to work for, they're always looking to solve big problems and wrap their hands around big problems. And I think within hospitality, we have a lot of really big problems to solve. One thing that attracted me to move from Facebook to Hilton was, I got to have an inside track to understand, what is Hilton doing within digital marketing? What are they doing within paid social? Excuse me. Is there an opportunity to perform better and to do better as a company? And I knew there was an opportunity to come into a company and make your mark and be able to truly see the impact that you can deliver for a company where, as these companies, Facebook and Google and Amazon, as they get bigger and bigger and bigger, in many ways, you just sort of become a cog in the larger machine, and it's hard to see your true impact in those types of companies when they get as big as they are today. And then finally, the last one that I'll mention is, I think that bringing in tech talent gives them an opportunity to potentially make career leaps. And I won't say like career growth. I'm talking about larger leaps. Ability to maybe shift focus from one expertise area to another. I moved from business development and sales at Facebook to being able to do marketing at Hilton, and be able to actually create the entire plan for an objective or a campaign or something that we wanted to lead, versus just being a sliver of that plan, whether it was a paid social sliver or a PPC sliver or whatever that may be. So it just gives you an opportunity to think about, for the talent that you want to bring in, are you giving them enough incentive to take on a big project or take on a big career leap? And I'll give an example of somebody that I know. His name is Simone Fiquet. Some of you guys may know him from Google. So he was, I believe he was an industry head for travel at Google. And he made a big leap to move to Expedia to become the GM of Southeast Asia at Expedia. And then that, he got a chance to really wrap his head around what it meant to become a larger business unit leader. And that gave him the experience to move to an exciting startup called Sleek, where he's now the chief product and strategy officer. So you get a sense that there is opportunity that you can entice people to come in and take big problems and big leaps and provide a whole lot of growth opportunity for them, not only for career, but also for personal growth as well. And if we're capturing sort of the moment of what's happening, where you're starting to see experiences over things and objects and products, and you're starting to see this sort of nomad lifestyle of being able to live anywhere, and you take all of the benefits and the positives that we can provide from a hospitality standpoint, and I think you'll start to see that if we can build that culture story and we can weave all of these things together, we actually have a really, really positive story, and we have, in my opinion, a really impactful incentive and offering to try and drive new talent, tech talent, into the hospitality space. Thanks, Sihun. Thanks for allowing me to share, and thanks, everybody.